I'm very happy to present it here in a cinema festival, in a cinema theater, and I hope you will see it at the cinema movie before all. So have a good screening and see you after the film. Bye.
In the beginning of the movie, there is something interesting because, I mean, this group, you have a lot of, it seems like a lot of classes in the film. Two guys that study in Sciences Po in France, Grande École, and some people who look like, yeah. Anyway, very interesting. My question is like, I mean, they are not terrorists, okay, but in the end, they commit a terrorist attack, and so they are treated as terrorists. The thing is like, and this is like maybe kind of an emotional question, because like, I mean, they committed the terrorist attack, but should we kill them like in the way, I mean, that's the thing, because like that's it was differentiate like the Occidental culture from extremist thing. So I mean, I perfectly understand that you want to make a close-up of the movie, like the second explosion of the movie, but like I'm asking if, because this is like a very tricky question, what you think about, like, personally, because in the end you also like shot a kid, so it's like very controversial.
If your question is the ending the only ending possible, in a way?
Sorry?
Your question is the ending of the film the only ending possible?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, I thought a lot about it. It's just put like this for. I think yes, it is the only ending possible. I think the most realistic part of the film is the ending. I worked, in fact, with some guys from the terrorism police for this ending, and
Yeah.
he asked me a lot of questions. So, for example, how many people are there inside? And I say, you don't know. Do they still have some plastic? I say, you don't know. Are there hostages? You don't know. He went to see the location, which is like a lot of floors. You don't see what's happening. It's the only. They have to end, the night, and to end the operation very quickly. So even if you have a kid, and I'm afraid to say this is quite realistic, that raise his hands, they don't have any other choices than shoot him down. It's too risky otherwise. I had a point of view in terms of cinema that was quite, I didn't want to change it. It's to stay with the kids the whole film long. If I had done some parallel editing, we could have seen, the police or the Minister of Interior saying why they do it this way. I didn't want to show that. I wanted to stay with the kids. So what you see from their point of view is, shadows coming and shooting. So I know it's something quite violent, but there is a reason to that. It's not, I don't give reason to one or the other. It's just the way it is, and there's no other ways it could be, in fact.
Okay, thank you very much.
Je peux poser une question? Il y a eu des réactions assez violentes contre le film en France, soit dans la presse, soit, je veux dire, dans les festivals. D'abord, le film n'a pas été pris dans des festivals. Je veux dire, il n'a pas été projeté dans les festivals, le grand festival auquel vous étiez habitué, disons. Donc, il y a une raison, sans doute.
To answer to for the Cannes Film Festival is, I didn't have any feedbacks from for the festival. They saw the film and they don't want to talk to me about that. I know they didn't want any polemics in the festival. So I understand it's their right. The reaction in France the press was pretty good, except from a few really tough attacks. After, there have been a lot of polemics and debates on the social networks, on the blogs, and some really, yes, tough attacks on the film, which I accept. I know releasing this film today is difficult for French people. At one moment, you cannot control everything. You give the film and people do what they want with it. I've read some hate sometimes. I've read some really beautiful, feedbacks, beautiful articles. It's been very, very separated. Yeah.
Hello, thank you again. I like the movie very much. I would like to ask you, what's the meaning of the homeless couple? Why do you want them to be in the movie?
When I was writing, everything is very planified for the kids, and I felt that there is something that should break the plan in a way. So it had to be something that came from the exterior into the interior. So I like the idea of two strangers, foreigners, coming inside. And what I like with these two people is, they are okay. They have nothing, but they do not ask for nothing. They don't ask for anything, and they've been offered a lot, and will die for that. It's not more than that, but for me it was, enough to make the scenes with them. Some people who just don't ask for nothing, but get killed, because they've been offered everything.
Just one quick question. Why did you choose not to show the motivations, the reasons for them to be in that place doing what they did? In a way, for me, there is one character, the one that says, this is heaven, we're going to heaven. It's a kind of way or moment where we can see, well, there's here, and considering that you edited in 2015, yes, the movie, so that is a very clear message. You didn't have to go outside to explain a little. You could just have decided to put them talking about something, and you did not. Why was that?
Well, there are basically two reasons for that. The first one is, as I said previously, I didn't want to do a film about a discourse. I wanted to be in the moment and in the action, and so for me, it's very easy for me to imagine what all the kids say before the film. When you see the symbols that they attack, Total, Joan of Arc, which in France is a very strong symbol, Minister of Interior. It's very easy to imagine all the conversation they can have. I don't really need to put it. And if you give motivation, you're pointing something. If you're pointing something, of course it's very reassuring for everyone because it's because of this. And this was not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to show a more general feeling of everything, not to say it's because of this or that. And I really chose some kids from, as this person said, from very different universe, different backgrounds, different neighborhoods, not to say it's because of this or that. I wanted to show a general feeling in what I could feel in France, for example. And inside of this 10-person, for me, it was very logical to have one who thinks about heaven. Not more than one, but you have to have one out of 10. One out of 10. It's quite logical to include also this inside the group.
How did you do the cast? And if the work of the script after the cast, if you changed the things in the script, and if the people that you chose for the film helped you in that also.
I'm going to answer the second question first. I wrote the script on my own, with my age, in my office, and with my fantasies. And when I started the cast, I was pretty sure that, I was going to meet like 100 of young people, that they would say, I like it, I don't like it, but they wouldn't believe in it. And I was very, very surprised to see how much for them the film was obvious. Of course, they were telling me, we are not violent, we couldn't do something like that, but we really understand. It was very obvious for them to read the script as it was. So I didn't change anything after the meetings. And the cast was a very long process because I've got 10 young people to find. So of course it's very long because finding one is easy, but when you search for the second one, he has to fit with the first one, and you know the 9th one with the 8th first, and so it's very, very long. It's like when you make a bouquet with different flowers, you know, it's very difficult to find the perfect flowers. And I really wanted a mix of professional and unprofessional. Professional is a little weird because they're very young, so the professional had really like been in one film in their lives, but some people that had a little experience and some people who didn't have any experience. So, you know, I don't have only one note in the musics, so it mixes a little, you know, weirdly. So it was a long process, and the non-professional, I found them really into very political groups, people that go into radical manifestations, very, not only in France, but in Europe. And so it was a very, of course, interesting, long but interesting casting, because, you know, when I do the cast, I don't ask them to play scenes, I just ask them to talk a lot of themselves, and I really watch how they move, how they talk, and so it's very, very interesting to hear all these kids talking about themselves. Yeah.
Good evening. I have a technical question, actually. There is a very impressive shot in the first sequence in the subway where a kid, I'm afraid I don't remember his name, is walking, and you follow him from behind, and then he goes on the staircase, moving on, and you stay with him and keep him in the center of the frame, and then he walks in the aisle of the subway train. How did you accomplish that movement, that shot?
It was
Thank you.
all the sequences on the metro were really tough to shoot because it's the real metro. You know, it's not something we had for us with extras. So you're not allowed to have un pied de caméra, you know. So we had a really weird machine that is the cameraman, you know, was all stuck with a kind of skeleton. In if he doesn't hold the camera, it was like this, you know, and then the camera like put it down. And for this specific shot, he was walking behind the actor. Then he took an escalator next to him, so he could make all the movement going up the stairs. But it's shooting in the metro is quite well. It was probably the most difficult part of the film.
I have a question about the John Barry song. In your films, the music always plays a very central role, and it plays very well with the images, and sometimes it's not necessarily related to the time where the characters exist. So these kids are all very young, and that song is from the 70s, I think. And I just would like to know what inspired you to include that song that just, it plays so very well in that scene, but it's just from a very different time, because all the other songs and even the score is very, you know, actual, is very from now, and this song is just so...
It's not the only one, in fact, because Blondie, Call
oh
Me,
yes, of course, yes.
The 80s,
Yes.
My Way, it's the 70s. No, usually when I write my first draft of the script, I really think very strongly about the music, and I write the music at the same time. Either the original score, when I start to write a scene and I think I need some music, I go in my studio and really very early try to think about the color of the music, the texture, you know, or if it's songs that exist, I put them down on a script, and the film is not finished, for the scene is not finished writing when I've, you know, if I don't have found the song and why I want to put it. Yeah. So for me, music is not only to illustrate, it has to say something, you know, so it's like a dialogue in a way. And for the Persuaders, I like the idea that, of course, it's an old song, it's an old music, but it's the music of a TV series show, and that usually you watch when you are a kid. And all the people that I know have watched it when they were kids. And it's the last music we hear in the film. And the death is quite close. And as the death was really approaching, I wanted to give a feeling of something that takes you back to childhood in a way, this nostalgia of childhood. And I really like the contrast of, you know, the death approaching and the childhood coming back into mind.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to know if some young person, some student told you, I understand them.
Yes. In fact, when I was saying that when I was meeting these kids, you know, I was very surprised by the fact that for them the script was very logical, and all of them told me that. They didn't say I approve them, but they all said I understand them. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know the words that are correct for this film that I think is completely mind-blowing and extraordinary. Going on from the casting, which was a long and slow process, once you had assembled this cast, how did you create the cohesion that is so clear amongst the group, and that there's this amazing bond, and I was wondering what process you used and how it was for the actors to work with you shooting the movie?
Well, in fact, yes, the cast was very long because I talk a lot with actors. And when the cast is finished, in a way, it's finished, you know. The cohesion is already done in my mind. Then I have to put them together. So what we did is, during the shoot, we rented a big house, and they all were living in this house, the 10 of them. So, you know, sometimes I came or not, you know, but they were together. But this cohesion stuff, for me, it's the 95% of the, when you do the cast, when you think about it, is think about this cohesion. I don't think you can make it afterwards. You have to think it before. And as I said, after that, they all live together for 3 or 4 months. You take a chance.
Another question? No?
It's a very simple question, but
It'll be a very simple answer.
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen your other movies, but I'm French, and I'm really, like, mind-blowing is a good term. I think it's a masterpiece. It's really, I'm really touched right now, and I want to know what you think of this movie, like what status it has in your career of a filmmaker.
It's a very tough. Yeah, it's a tough question. It's very. Okay, I'm going to be very honest. It's my 7th film. Always in my career, I always knew, you know, what I was going to do after that, and I was always pushed by some very precise desires. And I felt at the end of the editing that after this film, I would really need a huge break. And now the film is finished for 4 or 5 months, and it's true that I really don't know what's going to happen after. And it's like if the film really emptied me or pushed me to the end of something, of a cycle maybe. I hope a new cycle will start, or maybe not. But I really don't know what's going to happen after. It's the first time that happens to me. So I think it's these kind of feelings you have. They are quite difficult to live, but you have to accept them, you know, accept the emptiness also.
I might be wrong, but I thought I heard that this had another title, Movable Feast, and was there an intention to deliberately speak about a lost generation, like Hemingway would speak about a lost generation? And
no, it's true that the first title was the French translation of A Movable Feast, which was Paris est une fête. I really liked this title 5 or 6 years ago when I picked it up, not because of a relationship with Hemingway, just because I like the fact that a feast is something at the same time, une fête, very, it blows, and at the same time it's very melancholic. I like the fact that there was the word Paris in the title, but after November the 13th, this book of Hemingway became like a huge symbol in Paris and in France. everybody was buying the book and offering the book, and the book was in every restaurants, and it became a bestseller in a way. Every places that were attacked were full of the books. Paris est une fête. It became a symbol, you know. So of course, as my film has nothing to do with that, and I didn't want any relationship with that, and I didn't want people to think that I used this title because of that, I changed the title immediately. But that was the first title, and I picked up Nocturama, which is the title of an album of Nick Cave. Not his best album, but I really like the title, and which means in the zoos, it's a place that you build for animals of the night, nocturnal animals. So I like this title also, but it was my second choice, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Bonello.